Great leaders, great men, great human beings. They're both born, but mostly they are made. Such was the case of Abraham Lincoln. We clear out west in Idaho didn't have much proximity to President Lincoln in the 1860s. Nonetheless, he was there. His influence existed, and his impact crushed this nation in its most difficult years of the Civil War. How many lives will you impact while you live on this earth? You and I are here today with one of the greatest men in American history. Is that an accident? I don't think so. And little did he realize, me as an individual or you, but he nonetheless did his work that changed our lives. I'm sitting in Julia Davis Park in Boise, Idaho, and I'm sitting beside a statue of a man that played an integral part in the formation of the state of Idaho, and even most Idahoans don't know it. What a shame it would be if someone desired to tear down this statue. I wouldn't let that happen. I don't think you would either. Whether you liked Abraham Lincoln or not, he still impacted your life, and he will impact the lives of those who come behind you. So what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about Abraham Lincoln and maybe provide you some historical fact that you didn't even realize. And it is the underlying truths surrounding the actual history of a person that really devote one to another. It's the glue that holds society together. One of the big problems in America today is that we have no heroes. Abraham Lincoln was a true hero. Abraham Lincoln represents more than a person or a model for a statue. Abraham Lincoln represents a life of struggle, preparedness, defeat, perseverance, and ultimate victory. He was the 16th President of the United States of America, born on February 12, 1809, in Hodgenville, Kentucky, in the eastern part of the state. He died April 15, 1865, at age 56 in Washington, D.C. He's buried in the Lincoln Tomb in Oak Ridge Cemetery, Springfield, Illinois. He served as President of the United States from March 1861 until his assassination in 1865. This great president led the United States through the American Civil War, which was the bloodiest war and perhaps its greatest moral, constitutional, and political crisis. In doing so, he preserved the Union, abolished slavery, strengthened the federal government, and modernized the U.S. economy. He was largely self-educated. He became a lawyer in Illinois, a Whig Party political leader, and was elected to the Illinois State House of Representatives, in which he served for 8 years. Abraham Lincoln promoted rapid modernization of the economy and opposed the Mexican-American War. In 1846, he was elected to the United States House of Representatives. After only a single term in office, he returned to Illinois and resumed his successful law practice. He re-entered politics in 1854 and soon became a leader in building a new Republican Party, which at that time had a statewide majority in Illinois. As a part of the 1858 campaign for U.S. Senator from Illinois, Lincoln took an active part in the series of highly publicized debates with his opponent and rival, Stephen A. Douglas. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln secured the Republican Party presidential nomination as a moderate from a swing state, though most delegates originally favored other candidates. Though he gained very little support in the slaveholding states of the South, he swept the North and was elected president in 1860. There were many separate attempts to reconcile differences and bridge the widening gap between the North and the South. Ultimately, Lincoln's victory prompted 7 Southern slave states to secede from the United States and form the Confederate States of America before he moved into the White House. A deeply religious and calmly compassionate Christian man, Abraham Lincoln masterfully handled the turmoil which he faced. After the secession of the Southern states, U.S. troops refused to leave Fort Sumter, which was geographically located in Charleston, South Carolina. The resulting Confederate attack on Fort Sumter inspired the North to rally behind the United States. As the very wise leader of the most moderate faction of the Republican Party, Mr. Lincoln confronted radical Republicans who demanded much harsher treatment for the soldiers and political leaders of the South. War Democrats, who rallied a large faction of former opponents into his camp, anti-war Democrats called Copperheads, who despised him, and irreconcilable secessionists who plotted his assassination. Abraham Lincoln fought back by pitting his opponents against each other, by carefully planned patronage, and by appealing to the American people with his power of oratory. His powerful Gettysburg Address became an iconic endorsement of nationalism, republicanism, equal rights, liberty, and democracy. Abraham Lincoln closely supervised the Civil War effort, especially the selection of generals, including his most successful general, Ulysses S. Grant. Because of incompetency, inability, cowardice, and strategic disloyalty on the part of some of his generals, President Lincoln made many major decisions in Union war strategy, including a naval blockade that completely shut down the South's sea lane trade. As the war progressed, his complex moves towards ending slavery included the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. President Lincoln also used the U.S. Army to protect escaped slaves, encouraged the border states to outlaw slavery, and pushed through Congress the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which permanently outlawed all slavery within the nation. And now what most people don't know. President Abraham Lincoln played a most active and critical part in the establishment of Idaho Territory. It was an officially organized, incorporated territory of the United States, as declared by an act of Congress and signed into law by President Abraham Lincoln on March 3, 1863. It remained a territory until July 3, 1890, when the final extent of the territory was admitted to the Union as a legally established state known as Idaho. Mr. Lincoln was a most astute politician who was deeply involved with the major power issues in each state. He reached out to the war Democrats and managed his own re-election campaign in 1864 in the presidential election. Anticipating the war's conclusion, Lincoln pushed a moderate view of Reconstruction, seeking to reunite the entire nation through a policy of generous reconciliation in the face of lingering and bitter divisiveness. On April 14, 1865, 5 days after the surrender of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, Abraham Lincoln was shot by Confederate sympathizer John Wilkes Booth and died the next day. Abraham Lincoln has been consistently ranked by both scholars and the public as among the greatest, if not the greatest, of all U.S. presidents. Had it not been for this man, this fearless overcomer, this resolutely determined individual to do the right thing in the godly manner that it ought to be done, Idaho, and who knows, perhaps the entire western United States, would not be what it is today. Now the question becomes, what will you be remembered for? What will you be known for? What will they write on your tombstone that you did with your gift of life? If you want to be remembered well, do the right thing. Do the righteous thing. And love and serve your God by loving and serving your fellow man. Peace and love to all of you. Papa Bear.